Hey everyone, this is Walter Bergeron again. In this video, video number 2, we're going to cover how to grow strategically. In the last video, we talked about how to find your enough's enough number. We talked about finding the valuation of your business and knowing that there's a difference between what it's worth and what you need. Now we're going to talk about exactly how to grow your business strategically by exponentially growing it using multiple methods. So I am Walter Bergeron, and that's exactly what I do. I show entrepreneurs just like you exactly how to grow their businesses exponentially by using these strategic methods, not just the simple methods of organic growth. I'm going to show you some way more powerful methods to do this, to grow your business to that $10 million level, which is where you really need it if you want to retire at a level and a lifestyle that you deserve as a fellow entrepreneur. Now, you may be hoping that the business would grow by using organic methods. In the last video, we talked about realizing that the organic method of growing the business is very slow, may not get you where you want it to be in the time frame you want to get it there. So it may take you getting to the $10 million level using that 4% thumb rule we talked about. That's how you retire on with enough money to where you never have to work again and you live off of the interest alone. So getting to this 8-figure level, or at least close to it, is where you need to be if you want to be able to get your business to serve as the financial nest egg that you want. So let's get to work, because we know that money follows speed, and those who eliminate the time between the idea, like what we have today, and implementing that idea, they're the ones who have the most success. So we're going to follow this plan really quickly, get you to the next step here, and show you exactly how to grow your business exponentially using this really powerful strategy. You're going to walk away from this video knowing the exact steps that you can take to grow your business to the $10 million in the next 24 months. Now look, I can't guarantee that you can do this. There's no way I know for sure if you've got the wherewithal or if your business is even possible to get to this level, but I'm going to show you a possible way to do this. Maybe a way that might really excite you, and you may want to just jump and run with if you think that this is what you want to do with your business. So this strategic method is called growth stacking. It's being able to stack multiple methods of growing your business on top of each other. When we know what we know about growing businesses so far is what's called organic growth. We talked about in the last video, talked about growing your business through standard marketing methods, and you absolutely must have that as the foundation to the growth stacking method. But when we pile on top of that organic growth, we pile on top of that multiple methods to growing, we actually start growing exponentially, kind of like this little graph here. You can see that in the very bottom left-hand corner, we're going to use organic growth. We're going to use that 10% at least growth model by having a foundation of good marketing, having a foundation of good ways to convert the quotes that you have for your customers, convert those quotes over to approvals. Everything that you're doing right now is called organic growth. But we're going to stack on top of that some other methods, and these other methods are going to allow you to be able to grow exponentially. So let's start talking about what it takes and what these methods of growth stacking are. So the very first part of this is what we talked about. We talked about the organic growth. So let's stack these other methods, these other growth processes on top of that organic growth method, which is what you're already doing right now. So the very first part of this, and I put this little picture of a chessboard. You see, most business owners think about growing their business, well, kind of like when they play checkers. Checkers is a real simple game, and you really only move one or two different ways. The pieces are real simple, and you really can't do a whole lot of very creative or strategic moves within checkers. But if you were to use the analogy here of playing chess, well, we're using the same playing field. We're all on the same playing field like checkers, but we're using much more complex pieces like when you're playing chess. So the very first complex move that we're going to do when we're playing this new game, this new exponential growth game, is called a strategic acquisition. Basically, it's buying another company and merging yours and that company together to achieve a level of growth that neither company could do on their own. And what we're going to do is we're not just going to buy another company just like yours. We're not going to buy another contracting business, although that is one method, but you just can't squeeze out the growth if you buy someone just like you. But in order to make the business grow exponentially, we have to apply a bunch of leverage, meaning we got to be able to squeeze every bit of growth out of this transaction so that we get the biggest upside to doing this, to taking this risk, to making sure that when we do this, we achieve the highest level of growth that we possibly can. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for another company that is not just like ours, but they have at least these three things in common with us. We're looking for a company roughly that has the same gross revenue. So if you're $1 million company and you want to look for someone about $1 million gross revenue, you want to make sure that the company you're looking to buy, to acquire, has the same type of customers and clients that you do. That's really important to the process here because one of the methods we're going to use to grow is called cross-marketing, and it relies on having the same type of clients. And we also want to look for a company that has a lot of duplication of business processes. What this really means is that you want a company that has a lot of the same parts of the business that you do, like human resources or a sales department, or has the same kind of, building or trucks, or a lot of duplication of business process and business assets. And I'm going to show you why you want to make sure they have a lot of the same things you do, because that'll help you grow a lot faster if you do this strategic buyout. All right, so let's sit back here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to buy another company that's roughly the same size as us. On that very day, we automatically double the size of the company through that strategic acquisition. Now, I know technically that's not a lot of growth, but if your goal is to get to a much, much higher level, like the $10 million plus level, this counts. So we now have a company that was doing $1 million yesterday. When we do this strategic acquisition, by the way, we can do this strategic acquisition with no money down and actually walking out of these deals with money in our pocket. Now, I don't have time to go through this today. In the training I'm going to show you here how to get a hold of very soon, I'll show you exactly how to do that, but it's a little bit beyond the scope of what we can cover in just our few minutes today. So, on day one, we double the size of the company at the stroke of a pen because we closed this strategic acquisition of this complementary company we buy. Remember, we're not looking for a company exactly like us. We want someone that has those three things that we were looking for: the same gross revenue, the same type of clients, and has that lots of duplication of business processes and business assets. So here we go. On day one, we go from, well, in my example here, I have a $600,000 company that's grown at about 10% growth. So we do our one strategic acquisition, and now we have a $1.2 million company. Now look, these results are not typical. I'm not trying to tell you that this is something that you can absolutely do, but here's what is possible if you do this the right way. You can go from 600 grand to 1.2 million overnight. Now that's not the end of it though, and that's exciting now because you just double the size of the company. But let's talk about how actual growth occurs now that you have these two companies, these two complementary businesses operating together to achieve the most growth. The way this is done, the first step is called the cross-marketing multiplier. Now, you may be asking yourself, can you really double what your business is worth overnight? Well, if you buy another company, you can. The next way to double the size of this business is to use this cross-marketing multiplier. What this means is that you're going to take your HVAC, plumbing, your contracting services, and you're going to offer these services to the customers that you just bought with this brand new company you now own. So you take your services and offer it to these customers. Right then and there, you just double the size of your customer base. So you should essentially be able to double the size of revenue by offering your services to that customer base. Now look, I know in reality there's a lot of nuances here, a lot of ways that this could go wrong. I understand that. But bear with me here because this is still possible. The reality is it could actually go even bigger than double because depending on the value of the transactions that the other company has, you selling much, much higher priced goods could actually increase the value even more. So let's say on average you double the size of the company through this very first use of the cross-marketing multiplier. So that's one use of it. And you'll see right here in this graph here, we go from $1.2 million to $1.8 million simply by doing the very first cross-marketing. But we're going to do this again. See, we're going to do cross-marketing multiplier again. So the first time you did it, you offered your HVAC contracting services to the new acquisition company's customers. But what about the new acquisition company's products and services? Well, you're going to take those products and services and offer them to your existing clients. Again, being able to double the size of the company. So now you're able to take that $600,000 company, grow it to $1.2 million by doing this strategic acquisition. And I'll show you how. It's not quite as complicated as it sounds. And I'll show you how to put a team together to help you do this, making sure that you do it the right way. Hell, you don't even have to go into the deal with any money. You can actually walk out of these deals with money in your pocket. So now you own a $1.2 million company on the very next day. Then you use cross-marketing multiplier, and over the next few months, you go from $1.2 million to $1.8 million by marketing your services to their clients. Then you take their services and market them to your clients, and now you can potentially grow your business up to $2.4 million. That's yet another multiple of growth. So by choosing the right company to buy, the right complementary and not identical company to buy, you take advantage of all the leverage available within this deal. This kind of leverage, this kind of growth is not possible with any other way of growth. And this is how the big behemoths that we talked about in the first video, like GE and Google and all these much larger companies, this is how they're growing by leaps and bounds faster than any smaller company can, because they're using these really powerful methods. So this method of growth stacking stacks on top of organic growth with strategic acquisition, 2 layers of cross-marketing multipliers, and then the last step is called efficiency profits. Now remember when I said that the very third criteria we have for buying a company is that we want a duplication of services. We want them to have the same HR department, same sales staff, maybe an extra building. Well, all these things are things that are assets that you purchased when you bought the company. But if you don't need them, there's no reason to continue to pay for them. So what you're actually going to do is you're going to shed these extra assets. Maybe you'll sell the building. Maybe you'll reduce the number of employees you need while still being able to have all the workers that you need for both companies. What this does is this introduces a lot more profit into the deal. So this $600,000 company could very easily still operate on the same amount of staff that a $3.2 million company could if it's done the right way. Now I can show you how to do that in my product called the Contractor Exit Strategy, but it's a little more deep than we're going to go to in this video here. So what you've just done is through this exponential growth, and I know we just went over it very, very quickly, but I'm going to give you some homework here so that you can walk away here with the next step that you can take yourself. So we've taken a $600,000 company and we have doubled the size of it with a strategic acquisition. We've added another multiple of gross by adding 1 layer of cross-marketing, doubled it again by adding another cross-marketing. Now we have a $2.4 million company. And when we add efficiency profits by eliminated all those duplicates within the 2 businesses, now we can actually grow the business by another multiple. That means that within easily 12 to 14 to 18 months, you can take a $600,000 company and turn it into a $3.2 million company. That's 500% growth over that time period. There's no way organic growth could ever get you there. There's no way that organic growth will get you where you want to go. And if we look back at what we did on the first video, which is to, well, quite frankly, get you to a level of true financial liberation when you come to sell the business, this gets you to the ability to sell so much faster for your enough's enough number. The organic growth alone never got you there, but if you were to use strategic and exponential growth like we're talking about here, you could get to your enough's enough number much more quickly. Then you get to decide when you want to sell it. Now you don't have to sell it here at this level. In video 3 we'll talk about exactly how to sell it to the right kind of a buyer, someone that'll pay you top dollar for it. But what this does is gives you a lot of freedom to sell it whenever you're ready. You get to pull the trigger at any time you feel is necessary. Or you could continue to grow. You could actually put this growth stacking strategy in effect again. You could take that $3.2 million company, continue with, make sure everything gets going good, make sure your first acquisition goes well, you get to the level of growth you want, and you could do it again. Then you could take this $3 million company and grow it by another 500% plus, get you well over $12 million. Now you're over the 8-figure level we talked about in the first video. You should be able to get to your enough number with no problem now by using this growth stacking process to build your business, to grow it exponentially, using a much more powerful strategy than everyone else is using, simply because they're not aware of it within smaller companies. The big companies like GE, these big behemoths, have all these processes down. They know how to use these strategies. But we as smaller business owners don't always know. But I'm introducing you to this strategy because it's still just as powerful. Your business is in a real sweet spot of growth where you can take advantage of this like even the big behemoth companies couldn't. You can realize 500% growth, whereas they can't quite imagine this kind of growth because they're so large. But you have the power at your fingertips now to be able to do that. But I promised you something that you could leave this video with, something that you could do next. So the very first step is to get to that strategic acquisition. But I want you to find out how you can find a complementary business for yourself, one that you can actually buy. Now there's a number of ways to do this, but let me let you leave today with at least one of these processes. So here's the worksheet. Here's how you find a complementary business. Not identical. You want to find someone that complements what you do. So ask yourself this question. Who sells to the same customers that you sell to? Think about other businesses that sell to the same customers that you sell to, but someone that's not identical to what you do. So maybe you want to do this. Maybe you could look in your customer's driveway and see who drives up. That'll give you an idea on who sells to them. You could actually ask your customers what products they buy. You may ask them what other services they use. You need to make sure that you also get outside your own industry. You're going to see in your own industry, you know that HVAC guys, what do? They acquire plumbers and sometimes electricians. So usually it's HVAC, plumbing, electrical. Well, those are fairly complementary, but you can also do this outside your industry. I've seen pest control businesses, I've seen landscaping businesses, I've seen CPAs, I've seen all sorts of other businesses combine to grow exponentially. But there's a loose bond of the customer that really ties these deals together and makes them so powerful, makes this able to be leveraged to an amount you would never imagine, never be able to do with organic growth alone. Now, I know you're walking away here with this question answered. At least now you know how you can find your own complementary business yourself. But my guess is you've probably got all sorts of other questions. This video probably brought up more questions than it actually answered. Like, well, Walter, how do I find these sellers? Or how do I finance a deal with no money out of my pocket? Because I'm not in a position right now to go out and buy other companies. Who's going to help me? I've never done this before. So I know all these questions are there. I realize that. But I want you just to be aware that there's a much more powerful strategy out there to grow your business. Now, I do have a product called the Contractor Exit Strategy. It's a 5-step process. Now, you can't get it now, so don't try. There's nothing available. I'm not trying to sell you anything now. If you want, though, you can get on the early bird, which is a way that you can have access to this program before everyone else does. There's a link below this video. You'll be able to see how you can do that. It's not available yet, but if you click the link, you'll get into the early bird, which will allow you to access this program much faster than everyone else. But before we do that, now I'm not making a program available to you, but I just want you to know that it's there. But before we go, now I want you to stay tuned for video 3. So tomorrow's video, we're going to go over how to find a buyer that's going to pay you even more than that 0.25 or 0.33 multiple we talked about in video 1. So if you remember right, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to our enough's enough number as quickly as possible. But that was based on finding the crummy financial buyer or someone else in our industry who's only going to pay us that lowball 0.3 or 0.25 multiple. I'm going to show you how to find someone that'll pay you much more. Not a multiple of 0.3, but what about a multiple of 3, 5, 10 times the value of your business now, the income of your business now? What if you were doing $1 million, but you could sell it for $5 or $6 or $7 million by selling it to a different kind of buyer, a strategic buyer? And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in tomorrow's video. So stay tuned. Look out for tomorrow's video. If you want to get involved early with the contractor exit strategy, there's a link below to go to the early bird. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful to you. Take advantage of what we've given you today. Find your own complementary buyer, and I'll see you in the next video.